utilize time to expose students to something they may not have gotten in schools. And so the programs that I've mentioned, CompuGirls, Try IT, Co-Robotics, and a program called PERSE, and many NSF-funded programs do that kind of work. But it's not easy work. I think we situate the after-school space as something easy, and it's something that other people do. It's not as intellectually based, but those are all categorical misconceptions. It is difficult work.
If I could just add, one thing that may sound like a small element, but it turns out to be quite important, are the physical spaces in which different after-school or in-school programs are offered. There was an experiment that showed that girls were more likely to choose a computer science course if the classroom in which the course was taught had ordinary objects like plants and phone books to show that it was a human space and not just about Star Wars. So it's a really important element that we make those spaces look human to send that message that computer science is important for people, that it has an impact on social good.
And while we're getting to the next question, I would just say, too, that there are also a lot of associations, National Society of Black Engineers, which I'm very familiar with, SHIP, SWE. You have these associations that are very familiar with different programs, both governmental and NASA's programs, and also private programs. So really just getting access to those, NTA, NACME, SACNAS, those organizations are really going to help you throughout the pipeline to understand which programs are available to those students. So, yes.
Hi, Janelle George with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. My question, thank you to all the panelists. My question for Ms. Birch and Ms. Nunez is, you mentioned teachers who really inspired you or influenced you. Can you talk about what they did or what qualities, what practices did they use that really positively impacted you? And for the rest of the panelists, you talked about the statistics related to minority students, students of color being taught disproportionately by inexperienced teachers. What are some policy solutions or responses for improving the STEM pipeline and improving teacher preparation for STEM fields? Thank you.
Great question.
So for me personally, it was teachers who took personal interest in myself. So I've had several teachers that identified me and came to me, and I naturally gravitated toward them. And they said, "Okay, Katrina, I realize your interest and how much you excel at these science and math courses, and so I encourage you to do this." And most of the teachers who did that were in science and math professions, and so that was really helpful for me.
For me personally, my teachers, they were all male, and at the same time, they didn't treat us as girl or boy or rich, poor, whatever you were, even if you were a little strange. They really didn't care. They didn't care. They just expected excellence from every one of us and nothing less. So if that's not what we were giving them, they would push us harder and harder and harder until we got to where they told us, "You did a great job, now keep going." And they would push us to the limit to where we thought we could never achieve. So I think it's just a dedication of those educators.
So I'll respond to the question related to inexperienced teachers in classrooms. First, we recognize the shortage of STEM teachers across the nation. And so what the solution has been so far is to take a large number of people who have STEM content expertise and place them in front of children without the appropriate training and preparation to teach. And so we still have some work to do. And I can say this because I have a STEM background and I know what we think about education until I actually went into it. And so it is not easy work. It is very challenging and labor-intensive work that requires a huge amount of skill. And so with my STEM expertise, I still need to know some I need to do some teacher training. That's just critical to meet the needs of the students that are in front of us. So I think that is what that actually could be a policy, that we cease the practice of only recognizing STEM content expertise as a primary feature of being able to teach young children STEM, because it is not enough.
One of the reasons that the teachers in the disadvantaged schools are less experienced is they cycle faster. They spend less time in the schools. And there are some training programs that train STEM teachers that have very good records of teachers staying in teaching for longer. For some of the programs, the average is 3 to 5 years in teaching. And that's a terrible, as we heard before, it's a terrible investment to make if people get trained and we make all of that, go to all the work to get them into the schools, and then they simply don't stay. So I think we have to look at the programs that do have the outcomes of keeping teachers in the schools. I think we also need to look at what drives teachers out of teaching in the disadvantaged schools and invest specifically in whatever it will be that will keep them in those jobs.
I would just like to add to what they were saying. One of the programs actually that I went through was the SVA program, which is Success Via Apprenticeship. And it's a 5-year program where we go into 2 years of teaching and 3 years of industry. And I feel that that prepares us very well for going into a high school, because we get rotated into 4 different high schools in 2 years. And we get to see different cultures, different schools, different dynamics, and that helps us experience and be able to handle our first year as teachers with mentors and without mentors.
Thank you. So we're going to have our last question, but we are moving into a break, and you do have everybody's contact information. So I'm trying to keep it scheduled. So, and I know this is a rich discussion, and that in terms of setting the context, you guys have hit the nail on the head, and we're very happy with everything, and feel like we're well prepared to go into the rest of the day. So we're going to make this the final question, and then we're going to thank our panelists.
Okay. So April Erickson, and you'll hear from me at lunch, so I don't need to go into it in detail. But this is actually a question or a challenge posed to OSTP. So sorry to put you on the spot, Joe, but it's an idea that I've always had. With a problem, we often have unique times to make solutions. And in particular, when you look at the federal workforce, which is a very aging workforce, we've got a lot of turnover occurring right now. I've always envisioned that, you know, our employees, as they retire, and I'm a federal employee, that they would have an opportunity to be in the emeritus state, and they could go back and teach at schools part-time. Mm-hmm. And the federal government could facilitate this type of program and use that resource, that knowledge of what we do in industry, and become mentors and teachers in some capacity at schools, if it be part-time, but that the federal government would be very supportive and help and facilitate those programs. And you don't need as much money to really do those type of programs.
Mm-hmm. Great idea. I'll go back and work on it today.
All right. She's on it. I think we just established a program here today. All right. So please join me in thanking all of our presenters. Thank you all very much. I encourage everyone to interact with them throughout the day, and I think we're going to move into the break. So thank you very much. It's been an honor.
I should have known that. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. Yeah,
Okay. Welcome back. Okay, so welcome back. Is this a click? There we go. So my name is Rosalind Hudnell. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources and the Chief Diversity Officer for Intel, and I am delighted to be with you this morning. If there's anyone in this room that is not aware, I'm proud to announce to you that a little over a week ago, Intel announced our goal to reach full parity in the workforce representation that is available in all areas of our company by 2020, and we committed $300 million to achieve that goal. And I have the wonderful pleasure of moderating some brilliant minds today, and they asked me to just give a short bio. I think everybody's bio is in the program. For me, what I think is the most important thing for this audience, and the experience that I learned a lot about this issue, more than I really ever knew, was when I had the honor of chairing Intel's work with President Obama's Jobs Council and the 10,000 Engineers Project. And what I wanted to do, just for a brief minute,